it's about being human, and the respect and people, and that just taps into something in us all, and I think that's why it's so important.
So it was lots of threads to pull in, and then when you step on set, you just have to hope that you've done your homework and let it all go.
I wanted to learn it as best I could and then forget it, so I wasn't worried about it in the scene. But you can't ever, it's actually really nice to have something technical to do like that, especially at those really emotive moments where it was just it was like having a prop and something to focus on and direct all that passion and energy. And that scene with Giles, it's so
love that scene.
Oh.
There is no room for a diva on the Mike Leigh
No.
film, is there?
No.
I mean, just the process seems like it would break down.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to work very, not that divas don't work, but I mean, it's a lot of commitment, and he really demands everyone is kind of, you have to lose all vanity, and you to be very open and up for making a bit of an idiot of yourself at times, and being vulnerable and open and eager to try stuff out, and if it doesn't work, sort of able to let that go, and it is sort of a big commitment, not only time-wise, but you have to really, you know, it doesn't end. It's sort of a 24/7 thing, really, and really throw yourself into it, and he keeps you on your toes. I mean, you just sort of it's not really about you you as a person. It's about the character, and the focus is on that. And you have to be there. You're committed to the character, and you're committed to the film.
I don't like it to watch a film and actually see the actor it jars you out.
You want to see the character.
Yeah, it's it's not really about me or them. It's not. That's not really interesting.
It's not about the actors either. It's about everyone involved in the process, behind the screen and as well as on the screen, and we're all in it together.
And what's lovely is that every single person, however, even if they're in it for a millisecond, you know, tiny beat, they still have put in so much work and preparation and, you know, researched that character and created it from birth with Mike. And so that whether you see it or not, or aware of it or not, something filters through the screen that is that richness. And if you want to look for the detail, it's there. And that's apparent in all Mike's work.
And everyone is very excited about sort of doing their little bit for the story.
You're so spoilt as an actor, and because you're involved, and you're talked to, and you use your brain, and it's a real gift. And I'm so lucky to have worked with him.
When people ask about the sort of rehearsal process, and are quite surprised and think, well, what do you do? I mean, 6 months, that's ridiculous. And think, well, no, actually, it's very important, and it's a real luxury. And it's think about it, every day, every moment is packed. 6 months actually isn't enough. I mean, it could go on.
Yeah, it's true.
And
thank goodness it doesn't. I mean, the thing is, what we do for that time is prepare. We prepare for on the first day. We'll get around together, and I always say, as I did on this film, you know, we're going to just bring in to exist this world in order that in 6 months' time we can go out and make up a film on location, and that's what we do.
Every actor sits down with him, and you talk a lot. And I had a sort of a week of going through stuff with him before I went on to film Persuasion, actually, something I did for ITV in London. And then you come back and he talks to all his actors like that, and then it's only until you've sort of had that in-depth conversation, which he doesn't really talk about in depth, so I can't. But then you get up and you start to walk around and physically sort of trying stuff out, and he's throwing things at you. And sort of by that point, you know more or less what the essence of the character is, and unless you sort of come up with the goods, you don't really know. It was sort of. It was just sort of more organic in that way, and less structured. So he sort of went with a feeling. Right. So he had a feeling for Happy-Go-Lucky.
I mean, when you're doing the work,
yes,
it seems like you don't have time to rationalize it or intellectualize it.
No, and that's a really interesting point, because it's all. He is very interested in taking it away from this, and from yourself as well. You sort of, it's all about the instinct, although you use your brain in that way, but it's sort of using your brain in a different way, and you call on your creativity, and because the work is endless and limitless, and because the possibilities are limitless, and you can go anywhere, and there are various different roads, and there are various parallel worlds that, you could at any particular point, you go, well, what if I made that decision with Mike? Where would that have taken us?
Which he kind of does as a filmmaker as he goes through the story.
Yeah.
He kind of feels free to go wherever.
Absolutely, yeah. When you're improvising, you really have to, as much as you can, when you get rid of your third eye as yourself, you have to shut up that little voice that's commenting on what you're doing, and that's sort of always around whatever you're doing with acting. But because of the nature of the work, when he wants to keep it alive, and for you not to end game or worry about what's coming ahead, you're just dealing with their lives as it happens.
Let him worry about what's going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, she didn't expect it, and I didn't either. And you try and sort of not analyse it as an actor, and not try and think, well, what's going to happen here, and how is that going to develop, that relationship, and what might he do? You have to just ignore that, because it can spoil what you're doing instinctively in character, in the improvisation. Mike is interested in pursuing the purity of that first improvisation, and what he's interested in, he'll revisit. Sort of every scene that you see in the film is more or less the essence of the first improvisation that you did all those months back there, and we would have revisited several times, and then honed it and fine-tuned it to create a complete scene that's very well rehearsed and finely tuned.
And are you doing multiple takes of these improvisations, or is he pretty much getting it in the first couple times? Or?
He's quite. He knows it's quite by that point. About 3, 4 or 5 at most. But more or less, it's quite. I mean, that's quite sort of average. But it. I if I was allowed, I'd go on and on and on.
You like a lot of takes.
Yeah, you think, well, that was. Each one is different. You go, well, that was particularly good in that, and yet, I wish I'd got that moment, and I never know either. So you just have to trust. But Mike, he knows. He knows.
Good taste.
He sees truth completely, and thank God he does. And he's honest as well, and he's never scared of being honest, and that's what you need, because you just don't know what you're doing and how far or how much. You just have to be there in the moment and be open and vulnerable. It'd be amazing.
You have somebody you trust, and he's so bright, he's so passionate about what he does, and he's very funny as well. He's one of those people you just love being on set with, because he just cares about his work, and when you trust somebody who's working that way, you can do anything. You can sort of just completely be absorbed in what you're doing and trying to do with the scene, and not worry about all that other stuff.
Working with me, I suppose you don't think about the camera.
No, you don't. You're not aware at all. And it's not your responsibility to be and where it is, or Mike watches the, you have a rehearsal and you're on set and you're going where you would go in character and then Mike will make it work around that, around the choreography that's natural and right. And
but but on the other hand, because you're so solid in the character, I'm able to very much move it around and challenge it and change it and make it.
But it never feels artificial.
You don't, no, exactly.
And it never feels compromised. No. And that's just something that you don't have to think about. Really, something working with Mike. It's just you're just so cushioned, and you think, oh, it gives you that freedom to actually work. It's so, it can be so stressful because there's no trust if you're worrying about what's going on sort of on that side, and that's not your responsibility really.
And then there are all the stuff about actors, worried about which side, and actors wanting to know which lens and where, how, and of course that, for my money, simply gets in the way of the acting. And so my job, and I say our job behind the camera, is to create something which makes it possible to actually focus on what it matters, which is the character and what's going on.
And if you're thinking about that, you're not doing, you're not in character. You're thinking, you're third-eyeing yourself, and you're being self-conscious, and you're worrying about what lens it is.
But you've had those experiences in other films.
Yes, and people asking whether I want to see rushes and things, and I just no, thank you.
I will not let actors see rushes, and on the whole, the kind of sensible actors I work with don't want to see the rushes. It would be disingenuous to say that when you look at those two characterisations, you don't see Sally Hawkins in there too, because of course you do. But if I'd just said to Sally, okay, well, I know, just be yourself, and this woman, it's 1950 and she's posh and she's having an abortion, or be yourself, and she said, we'd have done it in a day. That would have saved 6 months. You could have done something, could have done another 2 movies. But it wouldn't have, so there's all that too. But in the end, we're not concerned with that, are we? We're concerned with telling stories about people out there in the street. Somebody just now said, so Sally is Poppy, and of course that is rubbish, and we would both be the first to tell you that. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Sally is, you see her in any number of movies, and she is extraordinarily versatile. She's done a complete spectrum of characters. She's a great character actress, and but you couldn't do Poppy, a character that we've collaborated, haven't we, to invent, because that's how I work. You couldn't do Poppy unless you had Poppy's, had the energy and the humour and the intelligence and the exuberance and the joie de vivre that Poppy has too. Sally has that, but she has other things too.
No, that's sorry. Thank you. That's very nice.
Well, we haven't.
Actors love talking about themselves, don't they?
I know. It's a crime to a heart. I go.